People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, we are back with a return guest. This person, well, number one, I love her, and she's my boss. But I also love her if one of her other jobs work in a bar, and if she was a bartender at I could see hanging out at that bar. She's just a cool person. Mm-hmm. She was going on this adventurous hike all along the Appalachian Trail, and I told her, I said, halfway through this trail, we need to do like a halfway point and then a final point. So we're 6 months into this hike. We're going to check it out. So everybody, it's Roxy Villone. What's up, girl? How are you?
Hello. Back from the woods.
All right. 6 months in. I don't want to get into
6 months.
We started filming this in March. So is it 6 months or 5 months?
Because she didn't start till April,
something
right?
like that. I left in April. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, 6 months since we recorded it.
April, May, August. Yeah.
Okay. So everyone, I promise I did the research. I counted with my fingers too, lady.
You
So
got it wrong though.
I'm following your trail. I don't know. It's something fatherly in me. You might be a year older than me, a year younger than me. I don't know your age. I'm not going to ask. My mom said, never ask a lady age, weight, or shoe size. So I dare do that. But there's something about me seeing a lady that I care about going into the woods by herself. Like a fatherly instinct kicks in, and I'm talking to you off the air. Do you have ways of protecting yourself? Do you have backup plans? Are you checking in with family? I didn't. That surprised me that I had this instinct for somebody I don't know you that well. I don't know what kind of car you drive. I don't know your relationships you've had. I just know you're my friend, and we check in. So It surprised me that I had this instinct. I don't know. Does that surprise you?
I don't know. It's a good instinct. I had the question too.
Yeah. Anyway. So what was your surprise? How was your hike? Did anything surprise you that you didn't prepare for? Because you did prepare for this. I mean, 7 jobs for months on end, saving up for it.
I mean, I think it's funny because you can read and you can do all the research and you can do all the homework. And one thing always stood out over and over again is no matter how much you prepare to do this, it's unless you can go with the flow of things while you're out there and you can, make adjustments as need be. And there's always going to be something that comes up that you didn't prepare for. That's 100% accurate and truth. Like no matter what you do, all the homework, all the research, all the saving, all of the looking into things, planning, every day is going to be different. Something new is going to happen that you didn't think was going to happen or that you didn't think about or that you didn't prepare for. And it's always going to be a new adventure, more or less, sometimes hour to hour, even not even just day to day. And so there were constant surprises and things that would come up, throughout the month that I was out there. So it's every day is a new day consistently. No matter how much you prep, there's always going to be something that you go, God, I don't know why I didn't think of that. So, yeah.
All right. I don't know how well I recapped everything that you're going on this adventure. I have notes here. Tell everybody who you are, why, what and why is the adventure, right? And how many jobs did you work and how long did you save up? Can you do those 3 things?
Yes, I think so. Let's see if I remember. Okay, so my name is Roxy Villone. I started the Appalachian Trail in April. I worked 5 jobs for the last 6 months leading up to April. I worked 4 jobs the year essentially leading up to the trail. So I worked to save up a total of almost $20,000 for 6 months to basically be unemployed and homeless. And so it's quite literally the most expensive way to be homeless and jobless. But yeah, so I worked 5 jobs for that long and saved up for the 6 months. And was that all three?
I think so. Yeah. So
But why he was saying why you were doing the walk.
Oh, and why?
Yeah.
So I realized a couple years ago that I think all too often we don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that we are capable of doing, and especially women, right? We're a mother first, we're a leader first, we're a teacher to our kids, we're responsible adults. We've got, we have to have a job, and we have to put a roof over our head, and we have to take care of all the people we love, and we give and we give and we give, and we somehow along that path, because we're natural givers and caretakers, that we stop taking care of ourselves and looking at the things that are important, and we tend to lose the confidence in ourselves, like, oh well, really shouldn't get on that roller coaster. Maybe when I was like 17, that was a good idea, but now I'm like 30 something. I probably shouldn't do this. And yet we love the roller coaster. It's crazy. We loved riding them when we were a kid, but now as an adult, we're like, yeah, no, have to be responsible. Maybe the bolt will come out and I'll go flying off into the, Neverland and never come back. And just, we have all these things because we get wiser as we grow older. But sometimes we lose that confidence of what we are capable of, and we stop giving ourselves credit. So I wanted to do this trip because my sister, who passed away from brain cancer, always pushed and pushed and pushed me to, be the best that I could be and always strive for more. And as most of us do, I'd kind of forgotten that over the years, and kind of came to a realization a couple years ago that I am capable of a lot more than I give myself credit to. And what's like one big thing that I've always wanted to do, and hiking the Appalachian Trail was one of them. And so I kind of just set my mind to it, put the play in action, worked all the crazy jobs, and decided to put all my stuff essentially in storage and go wander off into the woods for a while. That's pretty much it.
So I was just watching a reel or TikTok or something. They all blend together after a while the other day. And it was saying, this guy highly recommends mapping out every year and having one adventure, something you could tell your kids about. So like in 2020, I hiked the Appalachian Trail. In 2021, I did this. But then you also have, a monthly mini adventure, maybe going to a park you've never been to, or going to the Louvre or something. You've never done that before, but that's not something that you have to save up and do. And he said, imagine you live to 80, you have all these riches of these things that you can't buy. It's just you experience. I thought that was pretty cool. But I can't imagine doing something like that Appalachian Trail every single year, working that hard, saving up for it, trying to do.
That's a lot of work.
All right, next year do the other one.
But she wanted to do it. So
yeah.
Yeah, you have to have that motivation.
What is the other trail on the other side of the country called that's really long?
So the Appalachian Trail runs the East Coast. It runs Georgia to Maine. It's this year was 6 miles shy of 2,200 miles. The PCT is what's on the West Coast. So it runs from Mexico to Canada. So border to border. It's like 3,000, 2,800, something like that miles. Then there's also a third trail, though, here in the United States, the long distance, as far as the long distance trails are concerned, it's the CDT, and it's the Continental Divide Trail. And it runs Mexico to Canada as well, but it runs up through the central part of the United States. So there's 3 of them technically here in the U.S.
I knew it was West Coast, but now you've given me a third option. I'm not 100% sure. Season 3, episode 6. We had a lady, Kim, who runs O'Shea's Orchard, which she has, 50 acres, 10 acres, something out in the middle of the desert. And it's one of those oases for people on those trips.
I'm pretty sure that's the West Coast.
Yeah, but there's a Continental Divide is on the West Coast as well, she said.
She said it's central.
Is it more central?
Central.
Okay.
It's central. It goes right up the middle.
But the O'Shea's, it just reminded me of the places. That's one of the places you would stop at. I mean, they have a general store. They have places you can shower. They have places you can sleep. They have just a front porch for sitting. They love, just rocking just taking a break. Just it's a next stop destination. And you want to check that out. That might be fun listening for you. So season 3, episode 6, that's for you. I put a quick note for you. I'm following your Instagram and I'm looking at these things. And my wife and I were talking on the way home from the show yesterday. The hostel. I have questions about the hostel. The only way we even know the word is it's a popular word in Europe for, like, I don't know, hotel, motel, I don't know, hostel. I don't know. Natalie's only thing for it is the horror movie called Hostel.
Yeah.
That's the first time she ever heard of it.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, I just gotta tell you, I watched that movie and he was watching with me, and I'm watching this guy get. It wasn't
dismantled.
good, and I look
Yep.
over at him and he is out. He's asleep. I'm like, great, that's great support in a scary movie. Thanks a lot.
I work hard. So
Oh,
I saw you at Hidden Pond Hostel,
Yes.
and I have many questions. So nobody got dissected. Nobody got murdered.
No.
of course,
good.
she knows.
Right. Okay. So tell me about a hostel. What is it? It's not a Airbnb. What is
Yeah.
it?
So I can honestly say, without there are definitely people that don't really stay at hostels along the way, but for probably the other 99% of through hikers or just hikers in general, it would be tough to do it without that part of the community's support in whatever it is that you're trying to achieve on your hike, whether it's 2,200 miles or it's 100 miles. Most of the hostels are people that have hiked themselves or had somebody close to them that was part of that through hiking community, and they have chosen to set up these places along the trail or close by as they can, and they're exactly that, like you said. So they're a sort of a haven. Some of them have like resupplies that they've created. You can do your laundry, and a lot of them will have loaner clothes. So, because essentially you can only carry so much in your pack. So I may have one or two, changes of clothes. Okay, well, when I stop, I want to wash all of it. What am I going to wear while I'm washing my clothes? So these places will have loaner clothes for you as well, that while you're doing your laundry, showers, a bed, some of them provide a meal for you. So it's a great space. And then in and of themselves, they provide an immense amount of support, whether you've got a mail stuff back. I injured myself and, I caught a ride into town to go to the ER while I was out there. And so they're a great way. They're a great support for the community itself. It's almost like a separate piece and entity to being like the through hiking community. And a lot of people, even if they're not doing the whole trail, will stay at these places. So they get their business somewhat seasonally, but on the East Coast with the Appalachian Trail now, there are so many people that not only just go northbound like I was, so from Georgia to Maine, but then you have the southbound hikers, and those folks don't start until June up in Maine. And so, they're coming down as well. And so you've got, fall into winter, essentially, folks that are still out hiking, staying at these places. So it's a year-round business for a lot of them, which is great, but definitely not like the horror movie. Nothing at all. I never watched it. I'm glad I never did, but yeah, I think if I had, I have the same mental picture as a Hostel, but just absolutely kind-hearted, wonderful people, every single one of them that I met.
So Natalie was asking me these questions. I have them too. Does a hostel mean that you're all just sleeping and like on the floor together, or do you have separate rooms? Is it like a motel? What is it?
So they're all a little bit different. So I stayed at a couple different ones along the way in Georgia. And so the first one that I stayed at essentially had a bunkhouse. They took an old they had through hiked last year, met on the trail, got off, finished Maine. A day later, they basically flew to Georgia and bought this place that they had found. They're now engaged, getting married. Amazing people. Rainbow and Lost Johnny, just probably hands down some of the best people I've met. They
Is that their names or their given names?
That's their trail names.
Okay.
So Lost Johnny and Rainbow, and just probably those were my first like real like close connections that I made, and just all around the best people I've met. So because you never know what's going to happen out there. And um the bunkhouse essentially consisted of 4 sets of bunk beds and an old, garage, not garage, more like a shed. Heated, air conditioned essentially. And so yeah, you're staying in a bunk, whether it's the top bunk or the lower bunk or whatever, with, in that case, 6, 7 other people. And then they also offer, most of them, tent hiking or tent camping. So if you didn't, maybe they don't have enough beds available, right? But you just need to do laundry and take a shower for the night kind of thing, and you want a place off trail to resupply, you can still set up your tent and camp in the yard. Some of them will have 1 or 2 private rooms. Another place I stayed at had the bunk room. They had, tent yard camping. They also had a private room. They also had like group rooms where there would be 3 or 4 twin beds in there. And so you had a little bit more privacy, like if you were hiking with your tramley, your trail family, and there were a group of you, you'd at least have your own private space. So it it all varies from place to place and what their setup is.
That's neat. That's a lot better than what I was thinking.
Well, I mean, you go on the trail, and I'm following you on Instagram, and it was a couple days. You weren't posting every day because you were enjoying your adventure, and you were also trying to keep so people couldn't find you if they were trying to.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. And I see you dyeing Easter eggs, and I'm like, no, this lady is supposed to be hiking the trail, setting. She's got to prepare for food. What is she doing? She's hanging out. I never thought in a million years you'd be dyeing Easter eggs on the trail.
Right.
Yeah.
That was first week.
It was my very first week was Easter Sunday. So Hidden Pond Hostel, Lost Johnny and Rainbow. I, was hiking in, and I had gone for a couple of days, and, along the lines of, you never know what's going to happen. They always tell you, start cold essentially as far as what you're wearing for the day. Cause as you hike, your body's going to naturally warm up. Right. And rather than taking layers off, it's a little easier to put layers on. Well, this particular day was freezing rain. The temperatures continued to drop well below 20s. Just nonstop rain all day long. And I got to a point where I finally had a cell signal, and I had kind of started following Hidden Pond Hostel like before I left, and was like, oh, it's a new place, but they're close in, it's kind of more towards the beginning. I don't know if I'm going to be wanting to stop and stay the night somewhere luxury, firsthand, that early on. But I got to a place where I got a signal, and I called them, and they had 1 bunk left. And so he was like, yeah, we can get you, but you got to hike another 5, 6 miles before we can pick you up. And so I kept going. It got colder and wetter, and I was completely drenched. I borderline hypothermia at times. Every time I would stop walking, my hands were turning blue and shaking. It was not a good day. So get off there, spend the night, decide to take what's called a zero, where you're not hiking the next day, because I just was so cold, unbelievably freezing cold the day before, and wanted to just take a break, because I wasn't trying to push anything crazy anyways on the hike. I was taking it as it comes. And so it's Easter Sunday, and Johnny cooks a ham, Rainbow's making cake. They had bought a bunch of, Easter egg stuff, and part of their loaner clothes was these cute fuzzy onesies. So I have this crazy onesie on that I'm wearing all day long. I was like, I'm living in the onesie, like on an Easter Sunday in this gorgeous place. Like, what better life is this? So yeah, it was a great time. We had Easter Sunday dinner, and dyed a bunch of Easter eggs, and it was fun. It's funny because I continuously got comments like that. I thought you were hiking. What are you doing, hanging out in town and riding roller coasters, and, you going to eat all this great food and having Easter Sunday dinner, like still somewhat living a normal life. So it's kind of funny.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking every day is camping. Every day is trying to figure out your next spot where you're going to spend the night, and you're dying Easter egg, having a a ham dinner. I was like, wow, this is not what I expected at all.
Nope.
So,
Me either.
so in one of these places, and somewhere along the line, I saw on your Instagram, somebody gave you a walking stick. And
Yes.
it was sentimental. It was awesome. It was great.
Aw.
But here's my thought, and I'm saving it for on the air. So if you can't answer this, I understand. What the heck are you supposed to do with that? You can't carry extra sticks along. It was awesome. It was. She's already got 2, and she's got a pack of 50-pound. What are you going to do with that? You can't really accept gifts like that.
Okay.
Are you able to say what you did with it? Did you mail it home, or what happened?
Nope. I carried it actually. I walked with it. So I kept going with it. I did not send it home. It's so this gentleman, it was the way things happen always when you need it the most. So it was right after I had rolled my ankle. I sprained my ankle and I hiked another 3 or 4 miles down to this road crossing and pulled everything off. Figured I'd try to give it some time and see whether or not I could keep going or I needed to get back off. And Lost Johnny and Rainbow were actually kind enough. They were going to come back and pick me up and let me stay back with them. And so this guy walks up, and me and my family of 4 that I call them friends that I had made, mom, dad, and their 2 daughters that were hiking were there with me. This guy walks up and he's like, hey, are you guys through hikers? And, we're like, yeah, so far. So we're trying to be. And he hand makes these walking sticks every springtime over the winter, comes out to whenever he has some free time there in Georgia. He lived locally and he would hand make each of the sticks. They have their marked each individually with a number and then the year that he gives it out and gives them to through hikers. And it's completely random and they're all different. And so I have number 12 and I think she has number 10. Later on I met number 14 at one point and somebody else I met number 16. And so it's kind of cool because you're like, oh my God, you've got a stick too. Like, that's so cool. Where did you get yours? And the gentleman that gave it to me, he goes by Oreo Roxy on Instagram. He still follows me and sends messages. And but I did carry it. Honestly, weight wise, it was really light. I can't remember what he told me, what kind of wood that he used to make them, but it was probably as light as one of my trekking poles. And it being taller, I found it easier when I was going down, like downhill at all. It gave me more balance because I could kind of hold it up longer and my shorter stick for the shorter rocks as you're going down so that you have more balance going down. So, and then I just put my extra trekking pole on my backpack. But yes, I carried it the whole way as far as I went.
All right. So how long did you walk before you rolled your ankle, and how did you roll your ankle?
Oh my gosh. It was pretty early on. It was like the second week I think I was out. I rolled my ankle. I don't remember what mile it was. It was down there in Georgia. But it was so frustrating because it had been raining, it had been cloudy, if you look at any of the pictures when I first get up to Springer Mountain, my view is just all fog and clouds. And I'm like, oh yay, look, I'm on the top of a mountain. You can't tell, but I am. So I hadn't really gotten any good views of anything. And it was after Easter and I finally like the skies are clear, the sun is out. You're just going along, I'm feeling good. And I get to the top of this one mountain, took a picture, and then, I'm starting to go down this hill and I just wasn't paying attention. And it wasn't anything crazy. Like, I did anything funny. I happened to step on a rock and the rock moved and my ankle went with it. And when you're carrying 45 pounds, at that point, I was probably down to about 40 pounds that I was carrying, but you still got 40 pounds on your back. And there's this crazy thing called gravity that doesn't like you at all, especially when you're trying to keep your balance like that. So I rolled my ankle and I knew it was like, I kind of heard it pop and I was like, shoot. And so I didn't want to take my shoes and socks off because if, you do that, swelling's going to start immediately. So I kept everything on, just tried to take it slow, hiked another couple miles to the road crossing, and then sort of evaluated what was the damage. After taking like 2 days off of it, we went to the ER and had x-rays done and everything. And they were like, just at least give it a week. You've already been off of it for 3 days at this point. So give it a couple more days. And if you can jump up and down on it without, dying in pain, then you're good to go. I think the doctor knew, like, got the whole like through hiking thing. So she knew I was probably going to go out there no matter what. But yeah, so 1 week after that, and I ordered some new shoes, tried to lighten my load a little bit more. I got back on trail.
Wow. So how far did you go? So beforehand, how far did you go? You think you went 100 miles, 200 miles? How far did you go before all that happened? Before you had to take a week break for your foot?
Oh, it was pretty early on. I mean, I was probably only, maybe, I don't know, 40 miles, 50 miles. And it was very early on that I did that. And so it's one of those things, you just happen to step the wrong way or the rock rolls the wrong way. And it can happen to anybody at any point in time.
Yeah.
I took a fall, which I did not go to the ER for, but I did fall. Falling is, again, gravity is all part of it. The falling was face first, and straight down. And so that was fun. But yeah, as it goes, like, that's just kind of part of it, is if you don't fall, then you faked your hike, I guess. I don't know, but it's crazy. The falling part, I will say, it's interesting how human nature works, right? So you're going downhill, and I was hiking in a skirt at that point because I found it worked much better being a girl. And so still had shorts on underneath. But you fall and you're wearing this pack, and if you could picture what a turtle looks like upside down, that's kind of what you are when you fall as a hiker. No matter which direction you fall, it's somehow you're going to end up on your back. So, and I'm downhill, so my head is down, my feet are way up in the air, skirts all up, and the first thing, I'm not worried about blood, I'm not worried about anything broken. I'm like, oh my God, did anybody see that? I'm in the middle of the woods, and I'm more worried about my pride and did anybody watch me do this stupid thing than anything else. And then it was, oh my God, get up before somebody does see you. And then it was, and you're trying to roll and you're trying to flip yourself over like a crazy turtle. You finally get up, and then it's, okay, all right, there's no blood. I can move everything. I'm good. But this is what we do. And it's once your pride is crushed and you can't believe you just did that silly thing. How did I not? Oh, there's lots of rocks. How did I not see that particular rock? And it's funny. Makes you laugh when you're crying at the same time.
With all the hiking special trips you did beforehand preparing, you did no laying down trying to get up with the pack on your back?
No. That was not part of the practice process at all. Was not part of the research. I should have, but there's really no graceful, easy way to do it. I will say, no matter what, no graceful way.
Wow.
Well, now we know if we ever do it, that's one thing we got to practice before we go.
So yes. If I know how to do a magic trick and get this video to Roxy before she went on her trip, what is the one thing that you'd say, I'm glad you bought this, you did a good job? That's your favorite. What was your favorite luxury item, and what was your favorite survival item that you loved? What were the two favorites?
That's a good question. Let's see. Favorite luxury item would probably be, I mean, it was kind of fun because even though for the most part, when you're starting, there's a lot of people out there, and so, but there were still plenty of days, like I was alone most of the day hiking. You pass people from here to there, but I had brought with me a little stuffed purple dinosaur, who we named Petrie. And Petrie and I would have some wonderful in-depth conversations in crazy, horribly done foreign accents. And so if anybody could have heard me, they probably would have thought I was a crazy person. But it was a fun luxury item to have because
Too much time alone. You were going crazy.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, so Petrie and I were on our adventures, and Petrie's in a bunch of my photos, and with
That's
the
awesome.
walking stick, and we were having a good time.
I saw Petrie on a sign.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for that now. Yep. Okay.
So I mean, it was definitely like, granted, Petrie's probably only a couple of ounces, um, but it was fun. I don't know. I just had my like little stuffed animal. And then I would say my favorite survival item. I don't know. I think and this is going to sound crazy, but like my water filter, only because I kind of always love science, right? And so you're filling up your water, and for the most part, you know, you're pulling water out of these very clear mountain streams that, you know, is pretty fresh to begin with. Probably could have drank straight from it, and I would have been fine. But even still, you know, you're watching it pour down the rock and through the cracks, and we're taught, you know, no, filter your water and everything has to be clear, like water is supposed to be clear. So you're watching this water that you're about to ingest come off the rocks and the moss, and there's all this dirt and debris and things like that, and you fill it up in your bag, and then you hook on the fancy water filter tool that you have, and then it filters into your bottle, and it's this magical crystal clear water that you have, and you're just like, yes, magic. So I don't know, it was probably like I just love to watch filter the water, you know, it's just cool science. So um yeah, and to think that you're, you know, the difference from what you're taught of what the way things are supposed to be, and your luxuries of being in a home and having clean water to drink, and um, easily accessible facilities, and just things. When you're out there, you start to learn respect for a lot of things that we take for granted. So the water filter was definitely like my favorite piece of gear. It's like, yeah, look at me, I'm making science and I'm making fresh water, and I don't know, it's kind of just made me also like very humble that we have that luxury, you know, here. So a lot of people don't.
yeah.
So when you said you pass people on the trails, unless they're passing you on going in the same direction, I mean, you're really just saying hi or what's up. That's pretty much it. You don't really get to talk to them, correct?
No, not really. You know, you start to see the same people as you're coming into different places, different shelters, or different, even just, you know, different hostels, going into town, whatever, you start to see the same people. But, you know, if you're just passing people like opposite direction, a lot of times it's like a, you know, it's a head nod. It's a, hey, what's up? Once you start seeing people, you know, you start more of an in-depth conversation. A lot of times, if, you know, it's like the animals, they go to the watering hole, and it's through hikers, you're stopping at the creek to get water or whatever. And you're, hey, how's it going? You going the whole way? You know, where are you stopping tonight? Like there's common questions of, you know, where'd you start from? Where are you from? Where are you headed tonight? You know, just how much does your pack weigh is always, you know, the common question. And especially in the beginning, we're all like judging each other based on pack weight, and it's still like high school. It's kind of funny, but
You add another 10 pounds just to sound cooler? Just tell them.
no, it's the opposite. You want to be less. If you're less weight, then you're cooler, and people want to be like, "Oh man, how did you get to that?" And like, "What do you got in your pack, man? What do you use for this?" So the cool kids carry less. But yeah,
You could carry more would be the cool kid, right? You're stronger. You could carry more.
yeah. Trust me,
Yeah.
I was trying to get my pack weight down as fast as possible. In fact, one of the things I did when I came home was I spent even more money on a couple key pieces of gear. I probably spent close to $1,500. Granted, not in the original budget. I had already bought them a bit at the beginning, but I probably spent another $1,500 or more on swapping out 3 pieces of gear to drop 5 pounds.
Wow.
So
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
how was muscle soreness out there? Were you dying the first week? The first
Not at all. I mean, it's interesting because even if you walked every single day and you tried to do 10 miles or 15 miles every single day beforehand, there's a difference between, even on a treadmill, even on a Stairmaster, even if you're whatever, it's totally different when you're out there because you are quite literally up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. There's no good way to train for this that's going to be exactly what it's like when you get out there. And I knew that. So, everybody kind of does the best that they can. But as far as the muscle fatigue goes, I mean, I was doing on average, 12 to 15, roughly, 12 miles to start, without a whole lot of trouble. I mean, at the end of the day, I was tired. I was exhausted. My legs hurt. My feet hurt. My shoulders would hurt. But you get up the next day and it really wasn't that bad. Your body kind of adjusts to it pretty quickly. It does take about a month to get your trail legs really underway, where you can really start to power out and move into like the 15-mile, 18-mile days. And it just, your muscle have to develop to that point.
So with that hard work, I'm thinking I got two things going on. I'm thinking like a Rocky sequence of having her train for this, and she's on the treadmill, but my little girl she's on a vertical treadmill, right? And people are throwing, or my little girl's throwing loose rocks at her because you're on the trail, loose rocks are hitting you at the same time.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Oh, but, absolutely.
After doing, I don't know, 10 miles a day, whatever you did, and you're hiking, I thought the beginning of this trail was like the part that breaks people was like straight uphill at the beginning. Was that the other direction, or was that the direction you were going in?
I don't think it matters because the mountains are everywhere. So regardless of where you start, there's going to be like a part. But yes, at Amicalola Falls, so there's a 8.5-mile stretch before you actually get to Springer Mountain where the trail officially starts. So technically, if you did the whole trail, you're adding on an extra 8.5 miles that you did in the beginning just to get to the start point. And I think it's an extra like 5 or 6 miles to come down off the top of the end mountain in Maine. So
is that shoes are where people either gave up or at the end when they came back? Didn't you say something about that?
yeah, so so the finish rate on average is 25 to 30%. So from people that start at Amicalola down in Georgia that finish in Katahdin in 1 year. So it's that very first 8.5 miles, you get your little key tag at the park and you're all excited and you're like, yay. And then the very first thing that you have to do, it's literally less than a quarter of a mile walk from the little parking lot, is you go straight up a set of steps up a waterfall that it'll take people out. There are people that don't have any idea or didn't do the research or thought they were, better prepared or whatever the case may be. And there are plenty of people that quit just after that. They're like, nope, like if this is what I got to worry about, or this is what I got to do, I'm not going to do it.
Are you saying like your hands are on the steps as you're climbing too, almost like a ladder, or it's just really, really steep?
So the first part, there's steps, there are steps, but there are sections. In fact, right where I got off, the weather was about to turn bad for like the next 6 days. And after being like borderline hypothermic at one point already, I wasn't trying to do it again. A lot of people got off trail. And so, but that next section, which is Albert Mountain there in North Carolina, there is it's a ladder. So you got your pack, your trekking poles are somewhere, hopefully, and you're hand over hand going up a ladder to get up this mountain. It's the first fire tower you come to as well. There are plenty of sections where you're literally climbing over the rocks and hands and feet. You're not always just walking on your feet. You're climbing. There's a lot of it. So even in the sections, some of them I did, you get to these rocky parts. There was one I happened to do, it was Blood Mountain there in North Carolina. And after I had hurt my ankle, I wanted to test it out and see how I would do. So I was slack packing. So I basically just had water and food for the day, and they dropped me off at one point, and then I hiked southbound instead of northbound. And the very top of Blood Mountain, it's sheer rock. Like there's no handrail, there's no grooves or divots, there's nothing but this sheer rock face. And so going the direction I was, I'm climbing up it essentially, whereas folks that are going the other direction have to basically you sit on your butt and you scoot your way down this thing because you can't just walk it. There's plenty of sections where throughout the whole trail where you're doing your rock climbing. It's part of it.
Yeah.
Well, you said ladder. Natalie's out. Natalie's out with the ladder.
Yeah, I don't like ladders.
But
Oh yeah, there's a lot of ladder sections.
You're talking about camping every single night. We have a little tree house out here. We have 5 acres. We set up a tent. We'll play once a year. Once a year, we'll do that. And Natalie doesn't like sleeping outside, but you probably had no problem because you were so exhausted. Once you got out, you were probably out, correct?
But I have kids with me too. It's different.
Yeah.
But the hard ground, you complained about the hard ground, but I don't.
We set up the tent on top of a rock.
Yeah. It was a good
That's
spot.
why you invest. Part of that investment in gear is getting so there's a lot of through hikers, and of course you drop more weight and drop more weight and drop more weight because that's the faster you want to go, the further you go. You'll see they look like little egg foam things and they just fold up really simple. And sorry, I'm bougie in that regard. I will never sleep on one of those because it's too hard. It's too close to the ground. So I actually carry one of the lighter ones, but it's an air mattress that you can blow up. Now, granted, it's specially made for hiking and through hiking and stuff. So I don't have like an air pump. I didn't have to blow anything up because I knew at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit there and, try and blow this thing up. So Big Agnes makes a special one that it comes with a bag and you sort of catch the air in the bag and you roll it down and it pushes the air into it. But it's this thick, it's 2.5 inches thick and I sleep pretty well on it. So, there's things that you can get depending on what it is you're looking for. Then there's the people that can sleep on the ground. I am just not one of them for sure. Nope.
All right. So another thing, the fatherly thing about me, I'm outside, even in my own backyard. I don't like going to Shenandoah National Park and camping out because I just don't feel safe. I'm in a tent, thin walls. I don't feel safe. How did you feel out there? You got not only people, you got bears, you got raccoons, you got I don't know. We had hunting dogs come through our property yesterday, and a deer was going. I can't imagine a deer just running through your tent in the middle of the night. You just don't know. Anything can happen.
So yeah, I don't think I ever felt scared or nervous in that regard. I never camped alone. There were a couple times where I thought that I was going to end up camping alone, which I at this point I still haven't done. Just happened to be that there were always at least somebody else that was setting camp up, somewhere in the vicinity. So that's kind of one of my my only fear of getting over it. I think I would be fine because I've camped alone plenty of times myself, but it is a comfort knowing that, oh, there's somebody, 20 feet away in the event I scream in the middle of the night that could, whatever. Honestly, most of the times you're wearing your earplugs because you're trying, you want to drown. Nature's really loud. You want to drown out nature and, the other people snoring because they're equally as exhausted as you. But I never worried about it so much. One of the reasons I did not get back on the trail was because of all of the animal attacks though. This year's been a really, really rough year. There's a lot of people that quit that just weren't able to do it. I think the last that I looked, so I was number 2216, I think, to start, and somebody that just finished. Now, mind you, were plenty of people that started after me too. But the last number I saw posted of someone that was going north was only like 370. So it's, it's not even 25% at this point that will probably finish. It'll be a lot less between, there were a lot more bear attacks this year. Every time I started to go back out, there was like a lot of, aggressive bears were tearing through camp. One girl I was hiking with was at a camp that got torn through. One girl got bit by a bear. And it's hard. It's sad because people just aren't responsible. They don't understand, or whatever the case may be. And these bears get used to it. And for whatever reason, this year it was an extra worse year. There was, I think, just a coyote attack in Pennsylvania on some thru hikers, and the weather played a big part too, with people getting off trail. So even just outside of like the animals and the human aspect, I mean, the weather part is really dangerous too, talking about the freezing rain piece, that I got to experience up north this year was massive flooding and rains. There was a hiker that, a dad, and his son that got swept away in a river. They were fortunately rescued. But there was a man that passed away. He was through hiking and he got swept off trail, and unfortunately they didn't find him for a couple of weeks. But it's stuff like that it's just completely out of your control. I mean, granted, I think everyone accepts that part when they take this on. There's an element of danger out there, and you kind of accept that when you go into it. It's why I carry a GPS tracker that was connected, and I had people that were following it would drop a pinpoint every 2 minutes for wherever I was. And so yeah, I mean, safety is always a part of it, and there's a number of factors. I was just reading a story about a guy through hiking, and he just got to Virginia, and he got bit by a black widow in his sleeping bag. So just a tiny spider crawled into his sleeping bag, bit him, and he's in the hospital on, fluids and stuff now. So there's a number of things that are dangerous elements to it out there, snakes, bugs, you got ticks with Lyme disease. But it's all part of the adventure,
Because you said Black Widow, I want to get back to why you're not on the trail. But we put our dog in a run outside. And when we're doing our shows, when we come home, that's my daughter's job. That's her, one of her few chores she has. Let the dog out, make sure the dog has food, let the dog back in the house, right? She goes out there and she's always making an excuse. I can't do it, it's raining. No, put on boots and go out there and do it. She said, I can't do it, there's a spider. And Natalie's like, Natalie, Ma, just knock it away. Just take a stick and knock it. What are you gonna do? And she took her phone. She said, no, Mommy, I think this is bad. This black widow, it's the biggest black widow I've ever seen in my life. It was huge.
It was huge.
And I'm like, no, honey, you actually did. Because she'll say there's bugs in the bathroom and she can't take a shower.
And she'll be like, I think it's poisonous, like with everything.
It's
and
an ant.
She's like, there's a spider and I think it's poisonous. And it's usually like this, like, a meter big.
But above our dogs, we have the run has tarp over it, a roof and tarp and everything, right? And it had made an egg sack next to it. So I'm out there and I'm trying to kill it, and she's videotaping and she's my support because I'm thinking I'm gonna get attacked. I don't know if when I was a little boy, I had a skateboard and I remember running over a spider. Just mean. That's rude, right? But all these little spiders started crawling on my leg. I didn't know that was a possibility. I didn't know that was a thing. So I was imagining this egg sack and all these spiders coming out. But yeah, black widows, you don't think about that, man.
No.
So
another topic for another time. I'll tell you a story about a friend of mine that used to work in the ER with a spider incident. I'll tell you that one another day, though. Well, you'll never want to be around him again.
I already don't want to be around him, so it's cool.
Yeah.
We have the podcast extra. We'll save that for the podcast extra. That could be the story.
There you go.
Figure it out. So what happened? Why aren't you on the trail right now? For listeners only, she's in her office at Wilderness Presidential Resort, where I have been performing for years, and I just performed there yesterday. Got to say hi to her for 2 seconds. But you're in your office now. So how long have you been off the trail? How far did you complete?
Are you going back?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did a total of in that aspect from when I started, I completed 85 miles. I made it. All of Georgia was completed, and I got up into North Carolina. I got off trail because the weather was going to be bad for another, like, literally 6 days of freezing rain. And my initial thought was, I'm going to go home, I'm going to swap out gear, and I'm going to get back out here, and I'm going to keep going. Came home, and my other half's father wasn't really doing too well. So I wanted to make sure I was here with him. And then I wanted to get some things out of storage, and ended up, we moved in together. So one of the wonderful things that's happened out of this is I have this great new partner in my life. He's amazing. And so um, that started as well as a part of this. And so I moved all my things in with him. Um, and every time I started to go back out, like I was saying, there was like another bear attack, or, there was something else that was happening on the trail with the wildfires. And so people were having to get off trail because you couldn't breathe. Like, and again, it turned into, like, COVID year, everybody's hiking in masks, and it didn't work out with how hot it was. And every single week there was something. And the further it went, like, even my tent that I had just spent, $1,000 on took almost a month to get to me. And so it was one thing after another after another. And finally got to a point where Laura, so my boss, our boss here at the resort, called me, and she's like, "Hey, so I still haven't filled your job yet. But I know you're here. So do you want to come back?" And, if you say no, you say no. By this point, I had clearly blown through some of my money that I had saved as well. So there was that to kind of deal with. And the more I thought about it, you got to listen to the universe. And part of this was, you know, building confidence in myself, right? My why for going out there. And I conquered so many things, and I know I'm not done with the trail. Like, I'm going to go back, I'm going to finish it. But at the end of the day, the trail isn't going anywhere, right? It's this strip, this little, like, 10 to 12 inch strip of dirt that goes up 2,200 miles, and she's not going anywhere. And so this just wasn't the right time. It was a great learning experience, a great confidence booster. I mean, I miss it every single day. I would love to be back out there. But this just wasn't the right time. And there's a reason that things happened the way that they did. And so I have no doubt in my mind that I'm going to get back out there. I have no doubt that I'll finish it. It'll be when the timing is right, though. And the more things that happen that were, like, big red flags of for why, for me not to be out there, you got to listen to those things. So I did. So I'm here. So I'll get back out there at some point. I've been trying to go hiking in between on days off and stuff. I've done a couple of sections here in Virginia since I've been back. And, I'll keep doing that while I can, and knocking out what I can. And I may decide to, try next year and do the whole thing again. Well, no, haven't planned that far ahead. I'm rolling with the punches.
So are you thinking you're going to piece it together like a puzzle because you've done some pieces here in Virginia and you get up to North Carolina? Or are you going to start fresh next year? You just don't know.
Not gonna lie, part of me really wants to start fresh because it's just kind of fun to do the whole thing. Like, I've done a ton of sections around here because we live so close to it.
Okay.
But doing start to finish, like, it's just part of it. Like, people are like, "Oh, are you gonna go back where you got off?" And I mean, I could, and I don't know, maybe when I get to that point, I'll be like, yeah, it'll save me, a few weeks, but it's kind of part of it that you're doing the whole thing at once too. So I don't know. I don't know what the plan is for me with it, but I will finish it. It's just when I get there. So
What about your new roommate? Is he going to go hiking with you?
no, he is absolutely the more of the, I'll drop you off anywhere you want to go, and I will pick you up wherever you want me to. And I'll wave goodbye, and I'll make sure you're good, and I'll have a cold, shower and a nice bed when you're ready to get off in the hotel room. And but no, he's not much of a hiker. We hike flat level ground, and that's about it. So
All right. So we have like 8 minutes left. Real quick, did you get sick of the food that you packed?
Absolutely not. And unfortunately, I have an insane amount of it left because I stocked food for 6 months. I spent all money on saving, for 6 months of food. So I have all this stuff. So if I were to open my drawer in here and I'd show you what's in here, it's all like camp food still because I don't want it to go to bad. I don't want it to go to waste. So
A bunch of
um, still eating trail mix, even not on trail. So that's just how it goes.
we talked about weight gain and weight loss. How did you end up there?
So I actually had lost a few pounds while I was out there for sure, but you build muscle so quickly that it really wasn't like a dramatic drop. You're more, maintaining. Definitely lost a couple inches even in just a couple weeks on the waist size. I was happy to fit into like, the smalls again. But coming back and Chris being as wonderful as he is with providing luxury when not on trail, there was a lot of snacking involved and a lot of just being a vegetable and resting. And so that weight came back on pretty quick. And yeah, like really quick. It's so, you go from doing these, essentially crazy workout all day long to not doing it unless you're maintaining it. You're going to put the weight back on. So, but it's okay.
This has been one heck of an adventure. One heck of an adventure. What do you think your main pace was? I don't think I asked you that. I think that's the last question I had. Do you think you were fast, medium, slow?
I was probably on the slower side, but again, I wasn't trying to set any records. There were plenty of people that passed me, that were younger than me and half my age and lighter packs, and they'd already done the PCT and the CDT and they were coming to do this to be a triple crowner or whatever the case may be. But then again, there were people I passed. There were some people I met that hiked about the same pace as me. I think I probably averaged anywhere from 2 to 2.25 miles per hour. Typically I would do 10 to 12 miles a day. I had one day where I did 17 miles, which is crazy because I've never hiked ever in my life 17 miles in one day. And the hostel I was staying at, it's called Around the Bend Hostel. And I looked at the guy in the morning and he was like, Roxy, you seem a little nervous. Well, and by that point I was going by Biscuit, was my trail name. And so he's like, Biscuit, you seem a little nervous. And I was like, man, I don't know I've never done 17 miles in one day. I was kind of freaking out about it. And he looked at me and he kind of pondered for a minute and he goes, have you ever done 2,200 miles before? And I was like, no. And he had this personality. You were like, oh. And so I was like, I got this, man. I'm going to do 17 miles.
Yeah.
So it was cool. But yeah, I miss it every day. I want to go back, but I'm where I'm supposed to be right now for sure. So.
All right. Well, it was awesome checking in with you. I don't know when we're going to do the next recap, but when you get back out in the trail,
Yeah.
we're going to be right here to do another episode with you when you finish that thing.
Absolutely. Yay.
All right. Hey, we love you, girl. We wish you all the best.
I love you guys too. Thank you.
We have a Halloween show, I think is next. Memorial Day, Labor Day.
Labor Day.
We'll see you soon. You'll be out there.
I'll be here for that for sure.
All right. Hey, thank you for everything. Kicking Trail Rocks on Instagram.
Yes.
Is there anything else people can find you?
No, that's pretty much it. I go by Biscuit. It originally started as Limp Biscuit, henceforth the limping and the leg thing, but I didn't want to be that the whole way. So just Biscuit, and that's my name out on the trail. So, yep.
All right. Is your ankle 100% now? Can you hop up and down? You feel good on it?
I can hop up and down. Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. I think that's everything. The only thing left we have to say is see you next week.
Check us out online at wesisley.com.